You're now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. Today, we are with Marc Faber, the editor and publisher of the Gloom, Boom, and Doom report. He is also known as Dr. Doom himself. How you doing today?
Yes, everything is fine. Thank you very much. And I hope the same goes for you and for your viewers and listeners.
Yes. When things are going well, it's always good to. There's this saying where it says, "Fail to plan, plan to fail." Right, and so we know that there's a lot of things going on in the political and economic atmosphere, and so your expertise here today is going to be very helpful for me and the audience.
I don't
So,
know. I'm more modest about this, but we also have to see a lot of people are not doing well in the world because they're being displaced and there are wars going on and so forth. So if we do well, we have to consider that we are very fortunate and lucky,
yes,
whereas other
yes,
people are less fortunate in this world.
yes, agreed. Always having an attitude of gratitude is important, and be willing to reach out and help others, and so that's a
Yes,
philosophy.
most important is gratitude.
Yep, agreed. So just jumping in into the macro environment. So Mr. Trump has inspired a lot of people in America um, to believe that America can be saved under his leadership. And so I want to see, like, if this is this a reality? I mean, um, has things changed significantly enough to where America can be saved from this doom path of doom that we've been on for a while? Can he do much in 4 years? What is your assessment there?
Well, I just had a visitor here, and we both agreed that it was necessary that Mr. Biden and his henchmen or whatever are eliminated or are no longer in government. I mean, it would have been a catastrophe after the Biden administration to have Kamala Harris as a president of the United States. So anything better than the Biden uh, club or crowd is a welcome change. The problem I see is this, and I have to say, I would have voted for Mr. Trump in 2015, and I would have, or 2016, and I would have voted again for him now. But I have to say that the problem with Trump, or President Trump, is that he's an incredibly arrogant person who thinks that he knows better about everything in the world. And that is a fallacy. He's not very well educated. He wasn't very successful as a businessman. He was very successful as a promoter. And the measures he's already taken prove that he has very little knowledge about how an economy functions. Say the tariff imposition on Canada is a complete mess because the US imports more than 4 million barrels of oil every day from Canada. The east coast of the US depends on Canadian electricity. So, I mean, you can see someone who thinks rationally and not emotionally wouldn't take these measures just like this without consultation and without further thoughts. And so I'm concerned that he will deregulate the country, and that is good. Less regulation. But internationally, he may destroy a lot of relationships, and a trade war is sort of on. And then you have in his administration people that are mostly wealthy people. Now, if you think about it, does really Elon Musk, liked the stock market to go down and the stock to be cut in half? No. All his administration people, they like the stock market to go up. So in my view, there will be more money printing in the US, and that will distort real economic activity. Plus, the money printing will lead, in my view, to an increase in the prices of commodities and a reacceleration of inflation. And I mean, I have so many visitors from America that come to see me here in Chiang Mai. They all agree on one point. They all say the consumer price index, as calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is complete nonsense. Prices are not going up by 2.7% per annum. They're going up by something like 10% per annum. Now, maybe 10% is too high, but I have statisticians who are excellent statisticians working for the private sector. They tell me inflation is 10.7%. I maintain it's probably somewhere, depending on the household, you have children and what you do in life and so forth. But the cost of living is going up by between 5 and 10%. That is my view.
Got it. So, a couple of things you said there. The issue of trade wars, which I do think that actually after you had came on the show last time, you recommended the book Capitalism and Freedom. I think it was Capitalism and Freedom by Milton Friedman. So I actually went and read that book, and yes, like deregulating. There's way too many regulations and within government on the private sector. And then also, I mean, even looking at, I was critical of the Department of Government Efficiency, but they have been able to cut some costs, and so I was actually shocked that they were at about 50 billion now. It's like, oh, okay, we'll see how far they get, because the four biggest ones, Medicare, Social Security, military, and interest expense, I don't really see them being able to touch that. But as far as trade wars, Trump has come out, made a lot of threats of tariffs on different nations, and I kind of feel like he's putting the cart before the horse, because America doesn't have the infrastructure or the I mean, we've hollowed out our industrial base and such, and so now we're coming in, and demanding, tariffs or taxes on imports, but we don't even have the infrastructure to produce or manufacture the stuff ourselves. And so, what is your take there? Do you think he's putting the cart before the horse, just coming in so strong this way?
I mean, I studied economics, and at the time I didn't study much because I was in the Swiss ski team, and I was skiing all the time in winter. Then I took my PhD and wrote about taxation issues and about trade, international trade, because in 1842, Robert Peel, he was prime minister at the time in Britain, he repealed the Navigation Acts and the Corn Laws. And these were measures of extreme protectionism. And thereafter, under the influence of the free traders like Adam Smith originally, and at that time, Richard Cobden, who was an industrialist but a free trader, Britain moved more to a free trading economy, and dismantled the whole tariff system. They cut down the tariffs, and basically that then reduced smuggling extensively. So I'm very familiar with these issues. And then I studied under a man called Heinz Haller. You can see the book here. He is the man in Germany who provided the academic background to introduce a value-added tax. the value-added tax is 100% say fair tax. Everybody pays the same. The rich pay the same as the poor. The socialists don't like the value-added tax because they want to squeeze the rich people. And the socialists are an ideology of redistribution. Well, in other words, you take it from the rich and you give it to the poor. And by doing that, the socialists everywhere in the world, in history, have ensured poverty for everyone. Because the capitalistic system, no matter how unfair it may seem, it lifts the prosperity of people to a high level. It's as simple as that. But now, the thing is with the tariffs in America, it's a tax. And it's an unfair tax that hits the poor people much harder than the rich. Especially because when people like Trump introduce these measures, there are immediately 100 exceptions. The American car makers, do you think they like the tariffs? Because they import auto parts from China. The tariffs go up, the price will go up. Inflation will accelerate if he implements his tariffs. And I tell you, I don't believe in the Trump tariffs because the initial reaction of the stock market was a down drift, a powerful downward move. Do you think the administration of Trump, most of which people are rich people, these people are wealthy, do you think they want the stock market to go down? Do you think Trump wants stocks to go down? No. He wants money printing. So I tell you, I would anytime vote for a Trump against the Biden criminal family. But he's not the ideal president. That I can assure you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is multiple billionaires within his cabinet.
Yes,
Not saying that's a bad thing,
many.
not not saying it's a bad thing, but the stock market going down does not look good for them at all. So there was an article that I read recently where Trump had made a threat towards the BRICS nations if they tried to dethrone the dollar. That he would put 100% tariffs on them. I think Kremlin came out recently and pushed back on that. So I was kind of wondering, do you see anything there? Is that just smoke and mirrors, or is that something?
Complete BS, smoke and mirrors. Look, the reality of the world is this. After the First, and especially after the Second World War, America became kind of the superpower of the world. Say, the domination of America extended from, say, the beginning of the Second World War until probably around the mid-80s, where they were the dominant country in the world. Unquestionably, when I grew up in the 50s, we always admired all the products that came from America. We said the Americans do it this way and that way and this and that and so forth. America enjoyed a gigantic prestige until, the mid-80s. After that, countries like India and especially China came up, but not only, also other countries developed rapidly. And the BRICS countries now, with the countries closer to BRICS than to the Western world, because most of the countries in the developing world, they believe that they were exploited by the white colonialists in the 19th century, notably the British and the Belgium in the Congo and the French in Africa and so forth. And so they're leaning more towards the BRICS countries, the sympathies. These economies, they've become bigger. They have 88% of the world's population. And the economic output of BRICS is much larger than of the G7 countries. China exports, the exports of China to America amount to 2% of GDP in China. It's not an important country for exports. Africa, all the emerging markets are much more important for China than the developed world.
Mm-hmm. So with you mentioned
Actually, I want to tell you what I believe. I believe the US and Western Europe need China much more than China needs them.
mm-hmm.
That I am quite sure.
Yeah. And so you mentioned growing up, like which I know America in the United States, we were producing and manufacturing a lot of the weapons for the world wars that were exported to other nations and such. And so we had a huge manufacturing type country. And you mentioned growing up, like the products coming out of America and such, like you all felt that they were good. And then you mentioned that this shift in the 1980s, which I think part of that was countries being added to the World Trade Organization. I know China was and such. And I know that that was kind of part of a dynamic where the wealth gap between started to increase a lot because labor was a lot cheaper in China, so you could send your factories over to China, get cheap labor, and then a lot of our manufacturing in the United States, car plants and such, were shut down, and so I mean, it seems like it's how are we going to reverse that? So there is a lot of more talk about onshoring, manufacturing, bringing manufacturing back and such, producing critical minerals in the United States again and such. And so, what's your view there? Do you think that, I mean, Trump has 4 years to even get this process started, and I'm just not sure like how much progress we can make on that within this 4 year window.
In my view, very little progress because the US is not equipped to produce goods as efficiently and as cheaply as China, Vietnam, and other countries in the developing world. And it's not about wages, it's about technology. The Chinese have developed technologies, and this is the stupidity of the media in the Western world to brainwash the people who say, well, the Chinese, they copy everything from us. Nonsense. China and India, each one produces more engineers, more mathematicians, more physicians, and so forth, than all of them together in the Western world. And I mean, Tim Cox of Apple, he rightly said, we're not in China because of cheap wages, we're in China because of the knowledge that they have. And the quantity, he says, we can fill 20 stadiums in China with technology experts. This is the reality. And you can look it up. What are the best universities for science? What are the best universities for engineering? Out of the 10 best in the world, usually 5 or 6 are in China. This is the reality. But the Americans, they don't want to wake up. They don't want to see the truth. Then they blame, oh, the Chinese cheat and the Chinese do that. Look at the 19th century in America. Do you think the Americans didn't cheat? They went to Britain and stole the technology from the British entrepreneurs who had invented the spinning mill and steel making facilities and so forth and so on, and steam engines and railroads and so forth. Yes, later the Americans perfected it and so forth, but they transferred all their knowledge basically from Europe to America. And even after the Second World War, the Americans were very quick to take in several, not one, Nazis, because they had special knowledges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Germany was a powerhouse, and
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. They had the best army by far.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so that sounds like it's gonna, I mean, very little progress is gonna be made. I mean, because I know like a lot of the rare earth materials come out of China and such, and so there's been some talk about that. And yeah, so just trying to get a realistic picture of what is this gonna look like. So, transition into markets. So we have gold at all-time highs, measured in dollars, and the market seems to be, um, for me, like it seems to be in bubble territory. I don't know how much this bubble is going to be inflated. Obviously, if there's a downturn, I think that uh, Trump and Powell are going to turn on the money printers. Trump has already advocated for a reduction in interest rates and such, and so I'm kind of wondering how how much is this balloon going to get inflated? And so, do you have any view there?
I mean, my view is this. What people call inflation comes in different masks or clothes. And, when the price of bread goes up or the price of vegetable or meat or chicken or whatnot, they call it inflation. When the price of real estate goes up or stocks go up, they call it a bull market. But the cause is the same. It's coming from money printing. It's a very close correlation between the increase in the quantity of money and the way assets go up. Now, the thing is, as you remember, maybe interest rates peaked out in 1981, the 10 years treasury over 15% interest per annum. Then interest rates went down all the way, and the inflation came down. There was not a deflation, but disinflation. In other words, the rate of price increases came down, and that led to a huge bull market in assets. Real estate, stocks, collectibles, paintings, art, whatever went up. Except between 1980, 81 to say around 98, 99, commodity prices came down meaningfully. The gold price had peaked at $850 in 1980. By 1999, it was at $253. Now, these are long cycles. My view is that we are in a cycle where inflation is now accelerating and where interest rates will go up in the long run. Now, is it possible for the next 6 months that the Treasury bond yield in America drops and that the Treasuries rally by 10%? Yes, it's possible, because the economy is much weaker, in my view, than what the media publishes and what the government admits. For the majority of people in America, the majority, not 1% at the peak of the wealth pyramid, for the majority of people, life and the standards of living has deteriorated. This is the reality. Even for people in Seattle, the cost of living are going up more than their wages or compensations. But the 1%, they do well because they own the assets. And I'm also benefiting from money printing. I should actually encourage money printing. But I'm also an economist and I'm a social observer. And as such, I have to condemn the monetary policies of the Federal Reserve. They're disastrous. And also the record of the Federal Reserve is very poor at forecasting anything. Anyway, the way forward, in my view, is that, yes, they will print money. But I'll give you an example, and that is the viciousness of inflation. Copernicus, by the way, already 500 years ago observed that. But the members of the Federal Reserve don't know it today. Actually, our field of economics is the only one that has gone downhill. You know, every science has improved the level of knowledge. In economics, they've lowered the standards of knowledge in economics because nobody reads the old economic books anymore or the classical versions of economics that were developed in the 19th century. But Copernicus, you already observed, the problem is money printing, is that prices go up unevenly. So for maybe 1 year, this price goes up. Like 2 years ago, the price of cocoa shoots up. Last year, the price, and also this year, the price of coffee shoots up. Nothing is regular. And what has happened, despite money printing, the price of commercial real estate has gone down massively, massively. And I'm bringing this up because it's possible that they print money and the stock price of Tesla and Nvidia, the most popular stocks among individual investors in America, that they go down. So I wouldn't rely on money printing. Actually, money printing eventually makes everybody poorer. Just ask the people that lived during the German hyperinflation. I have the whole literature about the German hyperinflation, 1918 to 1922. So it's also possible that they print money and US stocks don't go up, but emerging markets go up and Europe goes up and that commodities go up. We don't know. We don't know. It's the best in life is to sometimes admit that you don't know. That is what I worry about Trump. He's a know-it-all all the time, knows everything.
Yeah, true. So, do you have any outlook on Argentina? So there's
Well, Argentina has been a fantastic stock market. We recommended it numerous times 18 months ago when Milei got elected. And stocks like Banco Macro were very depressed. Macro is up 5 times last year. Telecom Argentina is also up more than 5 times. And so was the Argentina fund, country fund, the ETF was the best performing ETF last year. But I'm now more positive about Colombia, Chile, Peru, and Brazil, because the rich people in these countries will start to understand that their wealth can increase a lot if they deregulate, just like Milei did. Of course, you can imagine how welcome Milei is at conferences. The Europeans hate him because he wants small governments. The Europeans want bigger and bigger governments.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I have positions in Argentina as well as Brazil and Colombia. Um, any other countries that are on your radar?
All the countries are always on my radar, but not necessarily positively. But I like resource stocks. I like oil stocks. And I like China, and I like Hong Kong property stocks. In general, Asian markets are not as cheap as they were in 2009 and 2003, but they're reasonably priced compared to the US. And Hong Kong property companies are very depressed.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That sounds like an interesting sector because I've heard about China's real estate market, but I haven't done much deep dive research into it.
The real estate market in China is not good. It's not good in Hong Kong. But as you know, in the US, it's very high and it has begun to turn down. And so we have to be very careful. And also, real estate depends very much on location. So you may have a house on a corner in San Francisco somewhere, and the price will move up. And on another corner, where the homeless settle right in front of your house, the price may go down.
Yeah, yeah,
that people in Seattle should also realize.
yeah, yeah. Definitely.
They're not
Uh,
allowed to settle in front of the White House, understandably, and also not in front of the house of Nancy Pelosi and so forth. But in general, there are lots of real estate prices that have gone down and some have gone up.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So, what is kind of your outlook, just broader outlook on the rest of this year? Are you preparing for volatility? Any particular
Yes,
outlook
that
on
anyway.
gold?
But I wrote now several reports, and in my view, we've just seen the Trump peak, the Trump top, because expectations among investors are excessively bullish, and cash positions of mutual funds and individuals are low. And the whole world is gambling on Nvidia and Tesla and the Magnificent Seven and so forth. This is a bad sign. On the other hand, there are markets that are neglected and very cheap, and that's where I would invest. The big question, I mean, I want to make this clear. Normally, in a bull market that comes to an end, after the end, everything goes down. Even the best companies that are near bottoming out, they still go down for a while. But there is one exception to this, and that is Japan in 89. Japan started to go down, and the rest of the world started to move up, especially American technology stocks, NASDAQ. So I'm not sure this time around. I'm careful about markets because I think the US is going to peak out and enter a long-term bear market, not short-term, long-term bear market in real terms, adjusted against the price of gold. But the question is, what will other markets do? I'm not sure yet, but my sense is that some markets, like Latin American markets, value stocks against growth stocks, they seem to me to be bottoming out and strengthening, including all emerging markets.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much been my view as well. So especially when we look at the indexes with U.S. stocks, they're super overvalued, and there's a lot of
Yes,
money, a lot of money just
but it's
packing into them.
difficult to tell, what is overvalued can stay overvalued for years, and what is undervalued can stay undervalued for years. That's why I like to buy stocks and assets, commodities and real estate that has moved for 10 years sideways. And then there's a breakout on the upside. That's where the major money can be made. long base building period, and then with momentum, an upside breakout in price, but with big volume.
Yes. So I'm I actually downloaded this app recently, and I'm able to track Nancy Pelosi's trades and everything. So
So you're becoming a billionaire.
So when she starts selling,
Wonderful.
I'm gonna start selling.
Does Fidelity also do the same? They also have this program.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So Mark, appreciate you for coming on. I'm gonna be sure to link to your newsletter in the description. You all be sure to go check out the Gloom, Boom, and Doom report, and we appreciate you for your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I mean,
All right.
as the final word, I really feel we're moving into a high volatility environment. And depending on your ambitions, you can make a lot of money, but you have to take risks. I prefer to preserve my capital, so I'm very well diversified. But I wish all your viewers, and especially you, rewarding 2025. I'm not sure it will be that rewarding, but not everything depends on money.
Mm-hmm.
That
Fine.
is a clear view.
Mm-hmm.
Money doesn't. You look at all the rich people, the billionaires. You think they're happy?
No, it's only a tool.
The way they look, you have to just look at their faces.
Yeah, for sure. They stressed out. I view money as a tool. We got to find satisfaction in other areas of life as well. So,
yes.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
Well, appreciate you. All right. Take care.
Sawadee krap.
All right. Bye.